agreeing and admitting that she is the cause of the stab wound that Mr. Obumseli received.
OnlyFans model Courtney Clenny faces the music in the stabbing death of her boyfriend more than 4 years after she killed him.
My boyfriend's blood is all over.
Christian Obumseli's family addressing the killer.
No family should ever have to go through what the Obumseli had to go to.
But Courtney's lawyer and her parents say she is the victim despite the guilty plea.
This sentence today speaks volumes about the quality of the state's case against Courtney.
She stood in a Miami courtroom and admitted out loud on the record that she caused the stab wound that killed her boyfriend. 4 years. 4 years of claiming self-defense, 4 years of silence, 4 years of an OnlyFans empire that collapsed the moment police body cams started rolling, and now, finally, an admission. But here's the part that's about to make you furious. The woman who killed Christian Obumseli could be walking free in under 2 years. This is the case of Courtney Clenny, and if you've followed true crime for any length of time, you already know her name. What you might not know is exactly how the system arrived at a 6-year sentence for a woman originally facing second-degree murder, a charge that carried decades behind bars. So let's break down what actually happened, what the evidence showed, and why the state's case against her fell apart piece by piece until this was the only outcome left on the table.
You understand if you violate the terms and conditions of your probation, you're facing up to 30 years in the state prison.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you still wish to plead guilty? Are you pleading guilty because you are in fact guilty and you believe this plea is in your best interest? Have you spoken to your attorneys about the plea? Have they answered all of your questions? Do you need any more time to discuss the plea with your attorneys? Are you satisfied with their services?
Courtney Clenny, after claiming self-defense for 4 years, finally admitted that she killed Christian Obumseli, her boyfriend, who she'd assaulted on several occasions. If Courtney violates her probation, she could go to prison for up to 30 years.
Rewind to April 3rd, 2022. Police arrive at a Mayanamicon after a 9/11 call reports a stabbing. When officers get inside, they find Christian Obumseli with a single stab wound to the chest, 8 centimeters deep, straight through the right subclavian artery. He's rushed to Jackson Memorial Hospital. He doesn't make it, and the woman standing there, covered in his blood, is his girlfriend, Courtney Clenny.
The state of Florida and the defendant agree as to the following factual proffer. A. Christian Obumseli, hereafter the victim, and the defendant began dating in late 2020. Their relationship is defined by the parties as being extremely tempestuous and combative, as both have been involved in numerous domestic violence incidents. B. The victim and the defendant moved to South Florida in January 2022, taking up residence in a condominium located at One Paraiso Residences, located in Miami-Dade County. There were many complaints made by residents and security staff lodged against the couple during the 3 months that they resided in the complex. As a result, the management company was in the process of evicting the couple. C. On April 3rd, 2022, Miami Police and Miami Fire Rescue responded to their condo after a 911 call was made reporting a stabbing. Officers found the victim with a singular stab wound to the chest. After the incident, the defendant provided a knowingly, intelligent, and voluntarily made statement to the police, confirming that she was responsible for the stab wound. The knife penetrated approximately 8 centimeters into the victim's chest, puncturing the right subclavian artery. The victim was transported to Jackson Memorial Hospital, where he died from his injuries.
And then it was time to hear from Courtney Clenny. What would she say?
Clenny?
Yes, Your Honor.
The body cam footage from that night is what turned this from a local tragedy into a viral case.
You can get up right now.
Why you have to keep him upright? I just want to keep him
Get up right now. Mommy, hold.
It was April 3rd, 2022, when police went to the condo Courtney Clenny shared with Christian Obumseli. Courtney had stabbed Christian during one of their many, many arguments, and police body-worn cameras were rolling.
No, I can't let this, okay?
Let go.
Wait, it wasn't. Guys,
Relax.
Why? No, guys.
Relax. Boss, what's going on? Hey, you good? What do you have?
Relax.
What are you getting from? Go.
Guys, please.
Relax. Sit down.
Here. Okay.
Sit down.
Just let me.
Sit down.
Okay. Okay. Baby, come here. Just sit down. Sit down.
Courtney Clenny had stabbed Christian Obumseli at their condo.
Homicide's the one responding for DV. I'm assuming.
Wait, is he dead? Is he dead?
Sit down.
Okay, no, I'll sit down. I just, you scared me.
Sit down.
He's not dead, is he?
We don't.
No, they're taking him to the hospital right now.
He's in the hospital right now.
I need to be at the hospital with him.
No, you're not going anywhere.
Why?
Because we're conducting an investigation.
It was I was self-defense. I mean, my mom was on the phone.
Okay, well, listen, the detectives are coming, you're gonna talk to them, and then you're gonna explain your side.
But I'm gonna be covered in blood. I look crazy. I was holding him while he was spurting blood, trying to stop the blood.
Okay. So you guys started arguing, then what happened?
Threw me against the wall, choked me. I mean, you're looking like this. He's never like choked me to where like it's like crazy stuff. But like, I mean, I couldn't breathe.
Okay.
Then he put me on the.
So he throws you against the wall?
Then he put me on the ground, choked me. That's happened 2 other times.
Did he tell you anything? Did he say
just
anything?
like that kind of face, like where I was really scared and I was trying to get him off of me and he wouldn't get off. Then he gets off, then I called my mom.
Okay.
And then I was like, I went into the other room and I was talking to her and I was like crying and saying like something is happening, like I don't know what's going on with Christian. And I was just like crying, whatever. And then like I went to the kitchen and he like, started like charging at me. And I said like, I'm gonna like throw this at you. And he goes, do it. And then he charged me, I'm gonna throw. But he was far away and I never in a million years, like I'm
He threw
scared.
a statue at you?
No. It was the knife. I said, like, I was
Clenny, visibly shaken, tells responding officers it was self-defense. She says Christian choked her, threw her against a wall, pinned her to the floor, not for the first time, she claims, but the third. She says she called her mother before anything else. Then, when Christian allegedly charged at her in the kitchen, she says she grabbed a knife just to keep him back. "Please don't come anywhere near me," she recalls telling him. According to her, she never meant to hit him at all. Here's where the legal drama really begins because prosecutors weren't buying it, not entirely. Months later, in August 2022, the state charged Clenny with murder. Their reasoning centered on sequence and intent. Before she ever called 911, she called her mother. That single decision became a cornerstone of the prosecution's argument. If this was truly about saving a dying man's life, why was the first call not for help but for her family? On top of that, investigators say evidence surfaced suggesting Clenny herself had a pattern of aggression toward Christian, a detail that directly undercut her self-defense narrative and painted a messier, more complicated picture than battered girlfriend defends herself.
I said, like, I was just holding it to be like, please don't come anywhere near me, basically.
Months later, in August of 2022, Courtney was charged with murdering Christian despite her self-defense claim. Evidence showed she called her mom before calling 911. And more evidence came to light showing that Courtney was often abusive toward Christian. The case has gone on for years and was expected to go to trial until it didn't.
For years, this case sat in limbo, inching toward a trial that everyone expected to be a media circus. And then this year, it ended not with a verdict, but with a deal. The state agreed to amend the charge from second-degree murder down to manslaughter with a deadly weapon. Still a first-degree felony. Still technically punishable by up to 30 years. But under Florida's sentencing guidelines, that reduction dropped her exposure from decades to a range starting around 124.5 months at the high end, and the negotiated outcome landed far below even that. Clenny agreed to plead guilty. In exchange, prosecutors recommended 6 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of reporting probation, mandatory mental health evaluation and treatment, substance abuse evaluation, and completion of a batterer's intervention program. Violate any of it, and she's back on the hook for the full 30 years.
Until it didn't.
In anticipation of this plea, the state has filed an amended information charging the defendant with 1 count of manslaughter with a deadly weapon. It is a first-degree felony, punishable up to 30 years in state prison. That changes her guideline score from what it was to now 124.5 months in state prison, up to 30 years in state prison. I am passing up the written plea agreement that is signed by not only the state, the defendant, but also all of her attorneys. Major part of this, Judge, is that she's pleading guilty to this amended information, to the charge that was announced just now. There's a factual proffer that's a part of this plea agreement. We're going to ask Your Honor to read it. She will be agreeing to that factual proffer, but most importantly, she is agreeing and admitting that she is the cause of the stab wound that Mr. Obumseli received, and then that she is taking criminal responsibility for her actions. As part of this plea agreement, the state is willing to accept her plea. We've discussed this at length with the next of kin and certainly with Mr. Hanfield. And certainly when there's any agreement, no one is happy at the end of this, and we understand that. But the agreement that the state is willing to accept is that the defendant would be adjudicated guilty. She'll be sentenced to 6 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of reporting probation. As part of her probation, she must complete a mental health evaluation and treatment. There's a time frame in which she is to complete it. That's part of the plea agreement. Substance abuse evaluation and treatment. That's also a time constraint that's going to be in the agreement. And then it's 60 days, Your Honor. And then the batterer's intervention program. If she does violate her probation in any way at any point, she's waiving extradition back to Florida, and as well that she faces back to her guidelines.
Now do the math with me, because this is the detail that's going to make true crime audiences lose it. Courtney Clenny has already been sitting in jail for 4 years awaiting this outcome, arrested coincidentally on August 10th, 4 years to the day before this sentencing hearing. With good behavior and credit for time served, her attorneys say she could be released in as little as 18 to 20 months from today. A woman who admitted to killing another human being in open court could be free before her probation officer even finishes the paperwork. Prosecutors weren't shy about explaining why they took this deal instead of rolling the dice at trial. Because here's the uncomfortable truth about the justice system that true crime fans already know deep down: it doesn't run on certainty. It runs on leverage. And in this case, the defense had built a mountain of it. Independent witnesses, a neighbor who saw Christian hit Clenny and slam the blinds shut when he noticed he was being watched, a store employee who says he saw bruises on her arms, saw him grab and corner her in public, building security logs, police responses in the weeks before the stabbing, including one where officers found Clenny frightened, asking for a restraining order against the very man she's accused of killing, medical records documenting injuries across the relationship, and expert witnesses, including the psychologist who literally wrote the book on battered women syndrome, ready to testify about exactly how years of abuse can shape a person's fear response in a single catastrophic moment.
Today.
Is there something?
With all of that, and Courtney pleading guilty to manslaughter with a deadly weapon, her lawyer, Frank Prieto, said that Courtney Clenny is a victim of domestic violence.
The evidence presented, independent eyewitnesses, medical records, police security reports, expert testimony. We have many experts in this case. This all support, all the experts, all the video, all the evidence supports that, in fact, Miss Clenny, Courtney Clenny, was the victim of domestic violence in this case. And the actions she took that night, we stand by them, that she did it to protect her own life. As you heard her state in court today, she took this plea because it's in her best interests.
So
that's the case a jury never got to hear in full. And that's exactly the calculation defense attorneys made
from an expert on battered women.
And let me be equally clear about what has not changed in this case. From the first day, we said that Courtney Clenny was a victim of domestic abuse. And we say it again today. This was never something we asked anyone to take on faith. From the beginning, we said the evidence would support our defense. And the evidence we were prepared to put before a jury included independent witnesses with no stake in the case. There was a neighbor, Arthur Cupp, who came freely and voluntarily to speak to the police about what happened that he saw about a week prior. He witnessed Courtney repeatedly being hit by Obumseli, and when Obumseli saw that somebody was looking at him from across the way, he closed the shades. A store employee near their house witnessed Courtney entering the store with bruises on her arms, and on one occasion, him grabbing her and cornering her. It included building security and police responses in the weeks before, including one just days earlier when officers found Courtney frightened, asking for help, asking for a restraining order against Christian Obumseli. It included medical records documenting repeated injuries across the relationship, and it included Dr. Lenora Walker, the psychologist who first defined battered women syndrome, and Dr. Stephanie Ackle, who were prepared to explain the years of abuse shaped Courtney's fears and her actions on that day. What that evidence would have shown is that on April 3rd, 2022, Courtney had been choked by Christian Obumseli, a man much larger and stronger than her. When he lunged towards her, Courtney threw a knife in fear for her life.
As one of Clenny's lawyers put it during sentencing, weighing 18 more months in a cell against the possibility of a jury latching onto one bad moment, one unlikable face, one piece of testimony taken out of context, that's not a gamble you take when the alternative is a guaranteed release date. The state, meanwhile, insists this wasn't about caving to pressure or public opinion. They say the evidence simply got weaker than the headlines suggested, and that 6 years reflects the real strength or weakness of what they had.
With all of these statements of support for Courtney Clenny and the defense belief that the evidence showed that she was a victim of domestic violence, why not go to trial?
Weighing, it's a balancing. The evidence in this case would have been overwhelming at trial on the side of the defense. But you never know what a jury's going to do. They may latch on to some comment, a face that somebody makes. They may not like me. They definitely would like Sabrina, but they won't like me. And so in order to balance that, you have to look, I've got 20 more months to go versus what's behind door number 2. Could be guilty. Could it be? Sure, it could be. I doubt it. The state's case crumbled. That's why we're here today with the sentence of...
So with good time credit, Courtney Clenny could be out of prison in 18 to 20 months. She'll have to spend 5 years on reporting probation.
But strength of evidence doesn't erase grief, and Christian Obumseli's family made that painfully clear.
I am Christian's mother. Words can never fully explain how Christian's death has affected my life and the lives of everyone in our family. There is simply too much pain to put on paper. On April 4th, 2022, while I was at work, I received the call that no parent should ever have to receive. I was asked to give consent for my son's eyes to be donated. I had just talked to him the day before and had no knowledge that he had been killed. That was the darkest day of my life. And the darkness continued to unfold as I learned Christian had been killed by his girlfriend, Courtney Clenny, someone he had trusted and loved. Since April 2022,
his mother stood in that courtroom and described the call no parent should ever receive, being asked to consent to donating her son's organs before she even knew he'd been killed. She talked about empty holidays, about a joy in her family that has never fully returned, about carrying the loss of a future that will never happen.
For more than 4 years, we've lived with the loss every day and waited for accountability. Today closes a legal chapter, but it certainly doesn't close our grief. No sentence, no plea can bring back my son to me. My only hope is to carry his memory forward and to continue healing as a family.
Christian's extended family didn't hold back either, pointing out that Clenny called security and her mother before she ever dialed 911, and that in the meantime, she offered no life-saving measures for the man bleeding out in front of her. To them, that sequence isn't a technicality. It's the whole case.
While you remained on the phone with your mom, you then called downstairs to security, and then your third and final call, which should have been your first call, was to 911. In the meantime, you offered no life-saving measures to try to save Christian's life. To us, that is inhumane.
And prosecutors made sure one more thing was on the record before this hearing ended: Florida's version of the son of Sam law, statute 9044.1. It exists specifically to stop convicted killers from profiting off their crime. Book deals, interviews, brand partnerships, any of it. The state flagged on the record that they believe this statute should apply here if Clenny tries to cash in on her notoriety after release. Her attorney pushed back immediately, calling the statute unconstitutional and reserving the right to challenge it. Translation: this legal fight over whether Courtney Clenny gets to profit from Christian's death isn't over. It's just moving to a different courtroom.
To discuss the topic specifically that it discusses, and it's important that nobody who is a convicted murderer to killing someone, if someone is convicted of murder, they are not to financially benefit as a result of that. That's Florida statute 944.512. It's effectively our iteration of the son of Sam law, but it is a statutory lien that attaches automatically, and if the Attorney General's office were to decide to seek some form of lien or process in that, then that we would be supporting them in that. We do believe that nobody should benefit financially from murdering somebody.
So Courtney Clenny pleaded guilty to manslaughter and will serve 6 years in prison. She's been in custody for 4 years. If she behaves, she could be out in less than 2 years. That last part was very interesting because the state attorney believes Courtney Clenny may try to benefit financially from this criminal case. Her lawyer, Frank Prieto, pushed back.
Well, Judge, I do have the right to speak on my client's behalf, and so I'm going to put on the record that we believe that statute's unconstitutional. It's not an issue for the plea agreement, like Mr. Annabelle said. It is 100% accurate. However, we reserve the right to challenge that in the future. We do not think it's constitutional, and it would be challenged should any attorney general seek to enforce that. But that's
so where does that leave us? A guilty plea that isn't a murder conviction. A sentence that's a fraction of what the original charge demanded. A release date that could arrive before some of you finish bringing this case on true crime forums. And a grieving family left with an admission of guilt, but by their own account, still no apology. The system calls this closure. Whether it feels like justice is a different question entirely, and that's exactly the conversation worth having in the comments. If you think 6 years is a fair resolution for a case built on this much conflicting evidence, say so. If you think this is exactly what's wrong with how plea deals get negotiated behind closed doors, say that too. Either way, subscribe because this Son of Sam fight is far from finished, and when it lands back in court, we'll be breaking it down here first.
Anyone who is a victim of domestic violence, male or female, man or woman, can get help. The national hotline number is 1-800-799-SAFE.